She only borrowed his car because hers wouldn't start that morning. It was supposed to be a quick trip to work. She wasn't thinking about anything else until she saw it, sitting right there in the cup holder, a silver necklace with a small heart charm. She knew it immediately. It was her sister Alyssa's. She had given it to her 2 years ago for her birthday. There was no way she could be wrong. She stared at it, trying to find a reason it could be there, but nothing made sense. She texted Alyssa right away. "Hey, were you in Drew's car recently?" Alyssa replied fast. "No? Why?" She asked if Alyssa had lost her necklace. Alyssa said she hadn't seen it in a while, but no, she hadn't been in his car. That's when the sinking feeling hit. Something wasn't right. Later that night, she asked Drew about it. She tried to act calm, but inside, she was full of questions. Holding up the necklace, she asked, "Did Alyssa leave this in your car?" He looked surprised for a moment, then laughed it off. He said maybe her sister had dropped it months ago when he gave her a ride once. "You're overthinking," he said, but she knew he was lying. His face, his voice, nothing felt honest. She went to bed pretending everything was fine, but her mind wouldn't stop. That necklace didn't look old or forgotten. It looked fresh, like it had just been there. And Alyssa didn't sound like she was hiding something. She sounded confused. Drew, on the other hand, didn't even ask questions. He wasn't surprised enough. Then things started coming back. That one time, Alyssa wore a hoodie she claimed was from her closet, but it looked just like one Drew owned. Or when Drew changed his phone password after a weekend she had been away. At the time, those moments seemed small, but now they felt like missed warnings. She didn't say anything more that night, but she knew this wasn't something she could ignore. Her heart was telling her something was very wrong. After finding the necklace, Sarah couldn't stop thinking about it. Something felt wrong. At first, she tried to believe Drew. She wanted to believe Alyssa too, but her gut said something else. So she started to remember things. Little moments that didn't seem like a big deal before, but now felt strange. She remembered one time, when Alyssa showed up wearing a hoodie, it looked a lot like Drew's favorite one. When Sarah asked her about it, Alyssa just smiled and said it was from Sarah's old clothes. Sarah didn't think much of it at the time, but now she wasn't so sure. She also thought about how Drew had changed his phone password a few weeks ago. It was right after Sarah got back from visiting her parents. When she asked him why, he just said he felt like changing it. She didn't push, but it stayed in her mind. Now it felt like he had something to hide. Then there was this one time, Alyssa made a joke. Something strange that didn't make sense to anyone except Drew. It was almost the exact same thing Drew would say sometime. At the time, Sarah laughed along, but now she wondered how Alyssa even knew that joke. It didn't feel like a coincidence anymore. Sarah didn't want to jump to conclusions, so she started watching more closely. She didn't tell anyone what she was doing. She checked Drew's social media more often. She started noticing when he was online and when he stopped replying to her messages. She also checked Alyssa's posts and saw that they were both active around the same times, often late at night. One day, she remembered that Alyssa still shared her phone location with her. It was something they had done years ago and never turned off. Sarah started checking it quietly. A few times, Alyssa was near Drew's neighborhood when she said she was at home. It didn't happen often, but just enough to make Sarah's chest feel tight. She even looked back at old texts between her and Drew. There were little changes. He used to reply fast. Now he didn't. He started keeping his phone face down. He used to smile more, laugh more. Now he was distant and cold sometimes. All of it started to feel like a puzzle. Each piece alone didn't prove anything, but together, they pointed to something going on behind her back. She still didn't want to believe it, but deep inside, she already knew. Something had changed, something was broken, and she needed to find the truth before it hurt her more. The decision wasn't planned. It came in a moment when everything felt too heavy to carry. He was in the shower, the sound of running water filling the quiet room. The phone sat on the table, screen lighting up with a message preview she couldn't ignore. She hesitated, staring at it. Her heart was racing, her hands shaking. This wasn't something she ever wanted to do. She had promised herself she'd never go through someone's phone, but too many things didn't make sense anymore. Unlocking it was easy. She had watched him type the password 100 times. Messages looked normal. Nothing stood out. She checked call logs. Again, nothing strange. No sign of Alyssa. No proof. For a moment, it felt like maybe she was wrong. Maybe it was all just in her head. But then she opened his photo gallery, scrolling through random pictures. Screenshots, memes, and selfies. Something caught her eye. A folder she hadn't seen before. It had no name, just a string of numbers. She tapped on it. What opened made her feel like the ground had dropped from under her feet. Inside were screenshots of Snapchat messages. Some were just single lines. Others were full chats. Most didn't have names, but the style of writing felt familiar. Then she saw it. A photo that made her stop breathing. A girl in Drew's bed, wearing his hoodie. The same one she had seen Alyssa in weeks ago. A necklace around her neck. The same silver charms Sarah had gifted her sister 2 years ago. She looked at the timestamp. It was from the weekend she had gone to visit her parents. She hadn't even been in town. That was all she needed to know. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't just a hunch anymore. It was real. And it hurt. She didn't cry. Not yet. She simply took screenshots of everything, each message, each photo. She emailed them to herself quickly, making sure they were saved. Then she closed the folder, locked the phone, and placed it right back where it had been. The sound of the shower still running reminded her she had only minutes. She walked out of the room, quiet, empty, but more sure than ever. The truth was now in her hands. Not a feeling, not a guess. Real, painful truth. And there was no going back. She couldn't sleep that night. Her mind kept going back to the pictures. Each one felt like a punch to the heart. She didn't cry, not even once. She just felt cold inside. The next morning, she printed the screenshots and put them in an envelope. Then she got in her car and drove straight to her sister's apartment without telling anyone. Her hands were tight on the steering wheel. Her heart was beating fast, but her face stayed calm. She didn't plan what she would say. She just knew she needed to see her sister and look her in the eyes. When the door opened, Alyssa looked surprised. Her smile faded quickly. "Is everything okay?" she asked, her voice shaky and unsure. She could already tell something was wrong. Without saying anything, the envelope was placed on the kitchen counter. Alyssa picked it up slowly and pulled out the papers. She looked at the screenshots one by one. Her face turned pale. She didn't try to lie. She didn't pretend it was fake. After a few seconds, Alyssa whispered, "It didn't mean anything." Her voice was soft, full of guilt. We connected when you were pulling away." The room felt silent. No yelling, no crying, just quiet. She looked at her sister, the person she had grown up with, trusted and loved. Now it felt like she didn't even know her. She didn't ask any questions. She didn't want to hear any excuses. Her heart already had all the answers it needed. With no words, she turned around and walked out the door. The hallway felt cold. The drive back was quiet. She didn't play music or open the windows. She just stared at the road, feeling like everything in her life had changed. This wasn't just about a boyfriend. It was about trust, family, and love being broken in a way that couldn't be fixed. Her sister didn't even fight to explain it. She just stood there, caught and ashamed. She had imagined many ways things could go wrong, but she never thought it would be her own sister. Someone who was supposed to protect her, not hurt her. Now that person had become a stranger. She reached home, sat on the edge of her bed, and looked at the empty space around her. It felt too quiet, but somehow, the silence was better than fake apologies. The truth was out, the lie was over, and now there was no going back. She knew what she had to do. The pain in her chest hadn't gone away, but now it was mixed with something else. A quiet strength. She had already seen the truth in pictures. She had already heard the weak excuse from her sister. Now, it was time for both of them to see each other and face what they did. She picked up her phone and sent a short, sweet message to Drew. "Hey, come over for dinner. I want to talk." She made it sound soft and normal, just like any other night. A few minutes later, she sent another message, this time to Alyssa. "We need to talk. Please, come by my place tonight." She didn't say more. She didn't need to. Neither of them knew the other had been invited. That was the point. Later, she cleaned the small apartment. She set the table for 3, just like they had done before on family nights. She cooked spaghetti, the one meal both Drew and Alyssa always said was their favorite. She lit a few candles and made the room warm and peaceful. It looked like a normal dinner, but it wasn't. The doorbell rang. She opened it, and there was Drew, holding a small bag of snacks and smiling like nothing was wrong. She let him in and asked him to sit down. A few minutes later, another knock came. She opened the door again. This time it was Alyssa. Her face froze when she stepped inside and saw Drew sitting at the table. Drew looked confused. Then his eyes widened. He stood up slowly, and both of them just stared at each other, completely silent. They looked shocked and scared, like they had seen a ghost. She smiled gently and said, "I thought we could all be honest, for once." Neither of them said a word. Alyssa's hands were shaking. Drew looked at the floor. The room felt heavy, like the air had stopped moving. No one sat down. No one touched the food. She stood tall. She had already cried. She had already felt broken, but now she felt calm. She didn't yell. She didn't ask why. She didn't need more lies or fake apologies. She just wanted them to see each other the way she had seen them, together, behind her back. The silence said enough. The truth was already out, and there was no place left to hide. The room was still. No one had spoken since they saw each other. Both Drew and Alyssa looked nervous, unsure of what to do or say. The food sat untouched on the table. She stood near her chair, calm but cold. They didn't know what was coming next. She took out her phone and placed it on the table. No words, no warnings. She opened the voice recorder and hit play. The sound filled the quiet room. First, Alyssa's voice. "Are you sure she won't find out?" Then Drew's voice followed. "She's not smart enough." Neither of them moved. The recording wasn't long, but it said everything. Their voices were clear. The truth was there, spoken by their own mouths. They couldn't deny it. They couldn't pretend anymore. Alyssa looked away, her face red. Drew tried to open his mouth, maybe to explain or say sorry, but no words came out. She looked at both of them with calm eyes. No anger, no tears. She spoke softly. "You're both blocked. Forever." That was all she needed to say. She picked up her bag, pushed in her chair, and walked toward the door. Neither of them followed her. Neither said a word. They just stood there, quiet and frozen, like statues. She walked out, leaving them behind at the table. The dinner, the candles, the lies, everything stayed in that room with them. Outside, the air felt fresh. The night was quiet, but it felt better than being in that room. She didn't feel weak anymore. She didn't feel broken. She had given them the chance to see themselves clearly. She didn't need to scream. She didn't need to beg for truth. They had given it to her themselves. Her phone was back in her pocket. The recording's still there, saved. She didn't know if she would ever listen to it again. Maybe she would delete it someday, but not yet. That moment was hers now, her final goodbye. They had lied. They had betrayed her. But in the end, she had the last word without shouting. She showed them what they did, made them face each other, and then left them behind. They could sit at that table as long as they wanted. She wasn't coming back, not for apologies, not for tears, not for anything. The door closed behind her, and she didn't look back. After walking away from the dinner table, she felt a little better, but the pain inside didn't just disappear. The truth was out, but it still hurt. She had been lied to by two people she trusted the most. It didn't feel fair that they could walk around pretending like nothing happened. She didn't want to fight or scream. She just wanted people to know the truth. So, she posted her story on her private Instagram account where only close friends could see it. She didn't name anyone directly, but the details were clear enough for those who knew them. The messages started quickly. Friends who knew all three of them began texting her. Some said they were shocked. Others said they were sorry. A few even said they had noticed something strange, but didn't want to get involved. The truth was finally spreading, and people were seeing what really happened. One of the people who saw the post was someone who had hired Drew for a big freelance project. That person was actually a family friend of hers. After reading what happened, he decided to cancel the work with Drew. He said he didn't want to be involved with someone who could hurt people like that. It hit Drew hard. Alyssa's boyfriend, who had no idea about the affair, saw the story too. He texted her once and then broke up with her. He didn't want excuses. He felt just as hurt and betrayed. Still, she didn't feel fully healed. The story needed to be told, not just to her friends, but to others who had gone through similar pain. So, she created a new Reddit account. She didn't use her real name. She wanted to stay private. She wrote everything from the beginning to the end. The necklace, the hoodie, the photos, the dinner, and the voice recording. She posted it on a subreddit where people share revenge stories. Within hours, the post started gaining attention. Comments poured in. Strangers from all over the world were supporting her, cheering her on, and sharing their own stories. The post got thousands of upvotes. People called her strong. Some said they wished they had done the same when they were hurt. For the first time in weeks, she smiled without forcing it. She had turned her pain into power. It didn't fix everything, but it gave her back a piece of herself. Now, both of them had to face what they did, not just in silence, but in front of everyone. After the story spread, he started trying to talk to her again. He sent long emails, full of sorry words. He said he had made a mistake and didn't know what he was thinking. He sent voice messages too, crying and begging her to please listen. He said he missed her and that he had ruined everything. Then one day, he showed up at her work. He was holding flowers and looked tired. His eyes were red, like he hadn't slept in days. He tried to give her the flowers, but she didn't take them. She didn't say a word. She turned around and walked away. Her co-workers saw everything, and some even asked if she was okay. She just said, "He's not part of my life anymore." Later that same day, she got a message from an unknown number. It was her sister. Alyssa said she had ruined her own life, and now nobody trusted her. She said people were talking about her behind her back. Her boyfriend was gone. Her friends had stopped calling. She said she never meant for any of this to happen. Still, no answer was given. Not a single reply. They had both made their choices. Now they had to live with them. She didn't want revenge in the form of yelling or fights. She wanted peace, and the only way to get that was by moving on without them. That night she logged into her Reddit account. She went back to the post that had gone viral. Thousands of people had read it, and the comments were still coming in. She wrote one short update at the end. She typed, "The best revenge isn't rage. It's watching them crumble while you thrive." Then she closed the app, put her phone down, and smiled. She didn't need to hear from them again. Their words didn't matter anymore. What mattered was that she was finally free from the lies. She felt stronger now, not because they hurt her, but because she survived it, and she was ready to keep moving forward. She wasn't looking for love. After everything she had been through, she just wanted peace. Her focus was on healing, spending time with people who cared about her, and slowly putting herself back together. She didn't think she would trust someone new for a long time. One weekend, a close friend invited her to a small dinner at their place. It was just a few people, nothing big. She almost said no, but then she thought maybe getting out would be good for her, so she went, not expecting anything to happen. At the dinner, she was introduced to someone new. He was polite, calm, and had a quiet sense of humor. They didn't talk much at first, just smiled and laughed along with everyone else. But later, they ended up sitting near each other and started a real conversation. It was easy, no pressure. He wasn't trying too hard. He listened when she spoke and didn't interrupt. After that night, they started talking more. A few texts turned into longer chats. A week later, they went for coffee. Still, she kept her guard up. She didn't want to get hurt again. So one evening, she told him the whole story, everything about her ex and her sister, the lies, the betrayal, the heartbreak. She expected him to feel uncomfortable or pull away, but instead, he just smiled and said, "Remind me not to cross you." She laughed, really laughed, and it felt real. It wasn't forced it was the kind of laugh that comes when someone sees your pain and doesn't run from it. He didn't feel sorry for her. He respected her. That meant more than anything. They continued seeing each other, slowly, without rushing. There were no games, no confusion. He made her feel safe. He didn't make promises he couldn't keep, and he didn't try to fix her. He just showed up, again and again, with kindness and patience. For the first time, she felt like she didn't have to settle. She didn't need someone just to feel loved. She had already learned to stand on her own. What made her happy wasn't that she found someone new. It was knowing she had changed. She had grown stronger, wiser, and more honest with herself. This time, she wasn't falling for someone because she was lonely. She was choosing someone because she finally knew her worth, and that made all the difference. A year passed. Life had changed in many ways. She was no longer sad or angry. The pain had faded. The betrayal no longer controlled her thoughts. She had worked hard to heal and move forward. It hadn't been easy, but she had made it through. She found joy in small things again. Walks in the park, laughing with friends, quiet evenings with music playing in the background. She had learned to enjoy her own company. She had built a peaceful life and didn't want anything to disturb it. One morning, while scrolling through her social media, she saw a new friend request. It was from Alyssa, the same person who had once been her sister, her closest friend, and the one who had betrayed her the most. She stared at the request for a few seconds, then quietly hit decline without a second thought. No message, no reply, just done. Later that same day, a text came in from a number she knew too well. It was Drew. He wrote, "Still think about you." That was it. No apology, no explanation, just empty words from someone who never truly cared. She didn't respond. She blocked the number right away. It didn't upset her. It just felt pointless. He was part of her past, and he had no place in her future. That night, she opened her old Reddit account, the one she used to tell her story when it had all fallen apart. She hadn't logged in for months, but now it felt like the right time to say something, not out of anger, but to close the chapter. She wrote her final update. "They thought I'd break. I rebuilt. And now I don't look back. And if they ever read this, you know who you are." She hit post, then logged out, not because she needed attention or praise, but because it felt finished. She didn't need revenge anymore. She had peace. She had a life full of people who respected her. She had love that was honest and calm. And most of all, she had herself, strong, wiser, and no longer broken. She sat by her window, a cup of tea in hand, watching the sky turn orange as the sun went down. A soft smile crossed her face, not because everything had been perfect, but because she had survived it. She had let go, and she was finally free. Do you think Sarah did the right thing by cutting off her sister and ex forever? Or should she have given them a chance to explain or make things right? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your take on it. And if you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss another one.